Okay, in this tutorial, we'll learn to understand the layers panel. Okay, so I have another photograph open here right now on Photoshop. So what I'm gonna do is use the same technique and click and drag it into my canvas right here. And it's warning me again. I just say yes, and then I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna Control T, transform, and then I'm gonna scale it down, and then align it right at the center of the canvas. I'm gonna zoom in right there. It's once you've aligned it, press enter, and then the transform tool will disappear. So right now I have two images on my canvas which I can independently select and drag. Okay. And I can do this because the auto select here on top is selected. What is this auto select? So auto select will basically help you uh, select objects on the canvas on click. Okay, right now it's not selected, so the only way that I can move objects is using the layers panel here. So right now if I point to this, it's currently moving because layer 3 is selected right here. Okay, but if I click on this, you see layer 3 is still selected. It's not selecting this image. So I always recommend keeping auto select on so that you can select objects on the screen. Okay. Now if I click and drag it, I can move it around. So this is good. Now we have two photographs here. So what I will do to explain layers panel better is basically undock this layer from here. So for that, first I'll zoom out, create some space here, and I'm going to click on the tab of layers and pull this entire panel out. Now that it's in its own panel, you see it's independently floating. I don't want it like that. I want it to be docked at the right, right here. So if I click on on this panel, and if I just move it right here, okay, if you can, you see this blue bar. So it's Photoshop is suggesting me that it can dock this particular panel right here. So I just unclicked, and you see now the layers panel is docked right here and fixed. So I have my work area, and then I have the layers panel nice and large, so that if I create multiple layers, I can see them all in one stretch and I don't have to scroll down. So this is a good way to work with more layers. Okay. So now that we have layers here, you can see there are three layers. So what are these three layers? The first layer is basically your base layer, which was your canvas, and it's filled with white. So you can see that. The second layer here is the image number one, which is this architectural image, and the third layer is the image of the a woman here with her eyes closed. So there are three layers, okay? And how you know that they're selected, which layer is selected, is this gray bar right here. So layer 3 right now is selected. If you move down, it turns blue, which means that it's suggesting that the layer 2 is in highlight. So if I click on that, it turns gray, which means it's selected, okay? But that's how you select layers. And let's say let's say I have this image on top of this image right here. Let's overlay on top of that. So what happens is the layers still remain in the same order, no matter the order of the images on the canvas. Okay. So until the layers change, the order will not change. Layer 3 is on the top, so it will remain on the top. Layer 2 is in the center, so it will remain in the center. So let's say I want to move layer 2 on top of layer 3. How do I do that? So basically, I just click on layer 2, click and drag it upwards until I see this blue line shifting upwards right here. And I just release the mouse. And now you see the layer 2 is on top and layer 3 is at the bottom. I can click and I can move this around, and you can now see the difference that this was on top of that. So this is how you arrange a different hierarchy of layers. And you can click and drag and shift them and move into different positions. So that's about that. Now, uh, how do we hide layers? Okay, so you can see there's an eye icon right in front of this layer. Okay, if I click on that eye, the eye disappears, which means we have hidden that layer. Understand clearly, we have not deleted the layer still exists, but it's just hidden. Okay, so if you click on the eye again, it reappears. You can hide any other layer as well. So why has Photoshop given us this feature? Because sometimes elements get hidden behind other layers. To view them, you can just temporarily hide it, and then you can see that it exists and pull it around, move it around, and then re-enable it. So this is an efficient way to work if you have multiple layers on your document. Okay, so this was about temporarily hiding the layers. Now, how do I go about deleting the layers? Okay, so deleting layers is can be done by a couple of ways. That is, let's say the layer 2 is selected. Okay, I can right click on this and then I can go and select delete layer. If I click there, Photoshop is going to warn me that, are you sure you want to delete it? I'm sure, so I'm going to click yes. And you see the layer is being deleted from the layers panel. Okay. Now, let's say accidentally I deleted a layer, but I need it back. So how do I revert back changes on Photoshop? This is a very, very important feature that you will need to master, is basically undoing your actions. Uh, you may end up deleting things by accident, or you actually want them back. So, one of the ways you can do that is by undoing it. So, how do you undo? You undo it by going into Edit, and then on top you can see Undo Delete Layer. You see the action is undone, the layer is back, and basically you can start working again. So this is one method of undoing things. Another method is basically pressing Command Z or Control Z on your screen, and that will undo the action and bring back the layer. So guys, in this lesson, let's learn how do we duplicate layers and how do we group them, okay? And the benefits of grouping. So to duplicate layers, what does duplicating layers means? Let's say I have this particular photograph right here, which is on layer 2, and I want to make a copy of this particular photograph. Okay. Now, just like how in Word and other word processing, if you press a Control C and a Control V or Command C and Command V, it will paste a copy of an image. In Photoshop, it does not work like that. Those keys does not function. So in Photoshop, everything is done through layers. And to duplicate a layer, you have to right click on it. And then you see there's a duplicate layer option. You just click on that and Photoshop will throw this box at you, and basically it's asking you, do you want, what is the name of the new layer that you want to give? So right now I want to say that it's um, uh, copy blue image. That's the name I want to give to the new image. And it's also asking me what's the destination? Where do you want to duplicate this layer? So right now it's selected as Untitled One, which is the canvas that that I'm working on. I can also go ahead and change this to any of the other files right here. So now that layer would be created on this tab instead of this tab. So I can control that right from here. But for this purpose, I need it in Untitled One, which is good. None of the other options are enabled, so we'll leave that as it is. And then we go ahead and click OK. And you see there's a new copy of the same layer being created with the name that I've provided. Okay, let's go ahead and duplicate layer 3 as well. So we're going to go duplicate, and here we're going to say copy uh, woman image and click OK. And now you have another copy of the same layer. Okay. How do we know that it has been copied? There are two, but I can see only one. So if you hide the first one, you can see that the other one is still here, which means it was behind the first one. And for a better understanding, if you click and drag, you see now there are two copies of the same layer. Okay, um, they were just above each other. So that's how Photoshop copies images. Okay, it copies over the other exactly. So to view it, you can hide it, or you can move it around and see if it's created. Okay, so now that we have two copies of each of these layers, I want to group them together. Okay, how do I group them? So Photoshop gives us an option of grouping layers, similar layers, which is beneficial because if you are working on a file which has many layers, then you should be in a position to group similar layers together so that there is no confusion while you're working on these layers. So let's go ahead and create a new group. So how can you create a new group? So for right here at the bottom, Photoshop gives you an option to create a new group. You can click on this icon here, or you can click on any one of the layers, right click on there and select new group. Photoshop will then open this box and it'll ask you what's the name of the group you want. So I will give this architecture, or let's call it building, and it's also asking us for the color. What is this color? Let's go ahead and select red. Mode is pass through. Let's leave it as it is. Opacity 100. And click OK. Okay, what did it do right here? It's created a new group, and we know that by this icon here, it's like a folder. Okay, and it's named as building. What is inside this group right now? Okay, it's empty because if you click on this arrow, it collapses the group upwards, which means it closes the group. If you click on it, then it opens the group. You can't see anything right now because there's nothing in the group. So how do we go ahead and include these two building images into this group? So you can go ahead and click on the one copy of the building and then press shift and then click on the other one, and now you see both of these are grayed, so which means they're selected, and I can click and drag both of these files into the group and just drop them there. So you see the color of all these three elements has changed to red because that's the color we selected for the group to be visible. And now if I uncollapse this particular uh, arrow right here, I can see that the elements hide and then unhide, which means the group is hidden. So to view the elements of the group, I just click on the arrow, okay? Similarly, let's create another group for these two elements right here, which is the woman's image. You're going to right click, you're going to select new group, and then call it woman. And this will keep as yellow. And click OK. Again, there's nothing inside. So we're going to click both, we're pressing shift and then moving it into woman. And now you can see that the woman layers are enclosed inside this group. Okay. So, however, the base layer is still outside. We don't want to group that because we want it to be independent. So we keep it outside. Now, grouping is important because it'll help you organize your files better, and renaming or changing the name of these layers is also extremely important for you to understand what the layer is. So we're going to go ahead and change the name of these layers to building. Okay, how do we do that? So we can either right click on this layer and select rename layer, and then it'll give us the editing options for that. So we're gonna just delete this and call it building one. That's the name I want to give for the first copy. And the second, again, I just right click, I do rename, and I do building two. So I've renamed both these. Let's go ahead for the woman and I'm gonna do that same thing, rename woman one. Oops. And for the other, I'm gonna right click, rename woman two. There. Once I click outside, it just resets the name. So I have successfully renamed the layers and I've grouped them into the layers panel.